Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Purple People podcast for this week. I am Adam Carlson. We are here with episode number 209, Bon Voyage. I don't have either of the Kyles with me this week. Instead, I have Jordan Wright. He is one of our contributors over on the Viking Age. Say hello, sir.
Hey guys.
All right, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Man, I don't know what to say. I've been writing for about the Vikings for a while now. Started in small weekly newspapers and love it. Decided to join the Viking Age, a wonderful website. Love reading the stuff, so I wanted to join, and that's where we're at.
Nice. How long have you been a Vikings fan?
Oh man, since I was like 4 years old, so a lot longer than I want to announce on air, but for a while.
So you've never been that guy that's been a fan of another team and jumped on over then?
No, man. I've lived all over the U.S. in like 6 states. I was out in Portland for a while, and everyone tried to get me to be a Seahawks fan. Wasn't happening.
Hey, that Seahawks bandwagon was pretty popular for a while.
Oh man, everybody. You'd never know that they liked football until all of a sudden they started winning, and then everyone had their, blue and green out, and yeah, that was definitely a fun time to be out there.
I got a feeling that it could be purple and gold like that pretty soon, maybe. Who knows?
Man, I'm hoping. But
Skull Vikes 5 here in the chat with us. He wants to know about fantasy football, whether or not we do fantasy football. We are going to do a fantasy football league for the Purple People podcast. And like last year, we had the league with the prizes where we gave away some pretty cool stuff to the first place person in a survival league. And I love the survival league. I don't know what it is about it. It's just intense trying to pick a team, root for them, and you can't pick that team again. It just gets harder and harder as the season goes on. I love it. So we will definitely have the survival league going on. We're going to try doing a couple of fantasy leagues as well. Do you do fantasy football?
Oh yeah. Survival leagues are tough. I don't think I've ever done extremely well in them.
No.
But for the most part, I love fantasy football, man. I'm usually in 5 or 6 leagues at least every year. So.
All right, he's looking for a little advice. Do you got any fantasy football advice you want to give away for free here?
Man, I don't want to give away too much in case my opponents watch this. I can't give away all my secrets. But, if it's PPR, gotta love the wide receiver. I love doing a wide receiver quarterback combo. That's always fun to me. Double up on the points. Running back is tough, man. There's not a lot of running backs out there that are like Adrian and going to get 25 carries every game. Most running backs out there, you're kind of throwing darts at a board. So go with the sure thing in the early rounds. Go for, trial and error late. Hope to catch something that, somebody that nobody knows about that pops off. Alan Hearns last year was a great idea. I picked him up late in a lot of leagues. Matter of fact, I picked him up off the waiver wire a lot. And, touchdown every game, I'll take that.
Yeah, I got to agree. Early on, in the past, I always went running back. Always. Yep. And now, that's not really the smart thing to do. You got to grab that feature back if they're there, and then after that, you go for the big reception wide receivers. And actually, you can wait on a quarterback. That's my advice. Wait on quarterbacks.
Yep, because you can get really good quarterbacks later, in the middle rounds there, no problem. So,
all right, but we have got Minnesota Vikings stuff to talk about here, so let's get into that with some quick hits.
Let's do it.
Recently, Teddy Bridgewater was asked about some comments from head coach Mike Zimmer during the season about trusting Kyle Rudolph more. Bridgewater knows he has to do this, and he says that he's going to make an effort to be more trusting and take a couple more chances, and I like that. I like that a lot.
Okay. I say Kyle Rudolph is one of those players every single year I wait for him to pop off. You hear, oh, this is his year. Oh, he's got Teddy. They got Norvin. Look what he did with Antonio Gates. Rudolph's going to pop off, So every year you wait for it. And it might just be getting to that point where you're like, you know what? He's good, but not great. And he's an okay tight end, and, but you're going to draft him in fantasy? I don't know. I probably won't. So
No.
Yeah, trust him. Sure, but then what was that game? He had that wide open touchdown. Nobody around him for 10 yards in the end zone, and he just drops it, Like that doesn't help build trust.
No, that was an ugly focus drop right there. That was ugly.
Yeah.
But for the most part, he's going to be that big-bodied target. And now he might have a little bit more distraction. Stephon Diggs is still going to get some attention. Laquan Treadwell's going to be a guy that, who knows, maybe he will be that distraction on the outside that could open things up a little bit more. This could be another great opportunity for Kyle Rudolph, but we say that every year. There's always some opportunities. And so far, they haven't really been taken advantage of.
Yep. No, I agree with you. When you got AP and you got people putting nine men in the box every game, I mean, you should be able to hit him over the top with that tight end that leaks out. But, we'll see. I hope it happens, because if we can get him going in the running game, that's going to make everybody's lives a lot easier.
Now, I was talking about reliable targets, and apparently Stephon Diggs is a pretty reliable target for Teddy Bridgewater. Every pass that Bridgewater threw to Diggs that was 20 yards or more, that was deemed catchable, he hauled in. And that includes that one awesome stretch out catch for that touchdown. I still don't believe that one.
I remember I had to rewind that 3 or 4 times to watch it again because I didn't believe it. I didn't know how it was possible.
So much fun to watch that. The more I watch from Diggs, I keep wanting to say that there's going to be so much competition that it's going to be hard for him to earn a starting role. But the more I see, Jarius Wright has his spot. He has his role. Adam Thielen has his situation. He knows what he is. Cordero Patterson has all this hype around him that he's going to come out and be explosive every year. We've seen some of the stuff where he's working hard. So maybe it's a reality this year, but looking at it objectively, this appears to be a year that is going to be Diggs' first year as a starting wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do. Year 2 is always a big year. Other teams have tape on him now. They know what he likes to do. So it's going to be an important year for him to prove that his rookie year wasn't a fluke. And but man, talking about reliable targets, with him, I think Laquan Treadwell is just going to be enormously reliable. He's not going to blow the top off of defense. That's okay. He'll be able to catch anything that's thrown his way. And you got him, you got Diggs, you got Rudolph, hopefully. I'm really excited about the Vikings pass catchers this year, and I think it should lead to a good year.
Absolutely. Speaking of Vikings pass catchers, one of the former pass catchers had some praise for a future pass catcher. Randy Moss believes that Laquan Treadwell is a fantastic addition to the Minnesota Vikings offense and should really help out a struggling passing team.
That article that we just posted on the Viking Age, not only does it talk about Randy Moss really liking Laquan Treadwell, which is great. It's good to hear. Chris Carter had some wonderful things to say about him, but you kind of hear that every year with some receivers and Chris Carter. Jerry Rice, when you've got Jerry Rice, Chris Carter, and Randy Moss, 3 of, if not, the top 3 of all time, 3 of the best to ever play the game. When you've got all 3 saying this guy's going to be special, Michael Irvin was saying it. It sounds good to me.
We got a question in the chat here about whether or not the Vikings should sign a veteran like Greg Jennings or Anquan Bolden to help out the young wide receivers.
Oh man, if I had to say, I would have loved to see him re-sign Greg Jennings. On Twitter, Greg was really, really trying to make the comeback happen. You could tell that if Vikings offered him a contract, he'd sign no problem. His family's still in Minnesota. He loves it there. Would love to see that veteran presence. But at the same time, who are you going to cut to make room? Maybe Adam Thielen, because like you said, he is what he is at this point. But you're going to cut Cordero or Charles Johnson for an aging veteran? I don't see it.
No, these young players just have too much potential to cut right now. And as far as a veteran presence, they're going to have to lean on their coaches for that for now. They really are.
Yep. George Stewart is, I mean, every year you hear him talked about as one of the most respected wide receivers coach in the NFL. So if he can't bring leadership to that group, is another wide receiver going to do that? I mean, I find that unlikely. Not saying there's not leadership in the room, but George Stewart, that should be all you need.
Let's not discount not only the leadership qualities, but just what guys like Anquan Boldin and Greg Jennings bring to a team. Because not only are they veteran pass catchers who have a lot of experience, but they are humanitarians. They do a lot around the league. They influence the young guys in more ways than just on the football field. So there are a lot of things that these young guys could learn from guys like Bolden or Jennings. But I think the Minnesota Vikings organization, the way it is right now, especially for the wide receivers, makes it to where having guys like that isn't absolutely necessary.
Yeah, I agree. If we were a team that, the Vikings were a team that had a lot of young but troubled players that had a lot of potential, but not really a lot of good guys in the locker room, and you see that with some teams sometimes, then it would make sense to bring in a guy like that. But I mean, when you look at the roster from top to bottom, it's filled with good guys. I mean, from Chad Greenway to Adrian Peterson's organizations that he does. I mean, it just seems like every player and Coach Zimmer himself and Wabi, Mike Wobshaw, they all do stuff in the community. So, that's a good point. It's just the Vikings aren't the team that actually need that, whereas other teams, could benefit.
And I'm not about to jeopardize the future of a player, even like Adam Thielen, to bring in a guy for a year, especially a guy that the Vikings have already released once because they felt like his salary didn't match his expectations. And viewers of the podcast know I was big on Greg Jennings in Minnesota. I liked that he was a reliable target. He ran reliable routes. He had solid hands. He took care of business when he was on the field. And then when Mike Wallace came in, sure, he was this deep threat, but that's not the way the offense in Minnesota worked, and it wasn't playing to the strengths of the quarterback. It made no sense to me.
Yep. I'm right there with you. I was super happy with Greg. I thought him and Teddy were going to be able to just produce magic, just these, first down after first down. But it just didn't happen. And like you said, the $11 million, I think it was, price tag on him, or $10 million, whatever it was just too much for, the little production that he actually brought on the field. So it was unfortunate.
Back to talking about Randy Moss for a second. He released a video stating that he was thanking Packer fans for helping to inspire his catchphrase, "Straight cash, homie." Now, if you don't remember, that all stemmed from that incident of the mooning at Lambeau Field. Of course, we say mooning, but there was no actual mooning. It was just the gesture. Still, it was enough to just help ignite a flame of anger and I don't know what else between the two fan bases, but it really helped to inspire a rivalry among those fan bases like none other.
Well, one thing a lot of people don't remember is that, the Packer fans mooned the Vikings bus as they were pulling up to the stadium for that game. Actually mooned the bus. And that's why Randy Moss scored the touchdown and mooned the crowd to say, hey, you moon me, I'll moon you. And it was good natured. And, some people got really offended by it. But
Joe Buck, I still can't stand Joe Buck because of that.
Yeah. Oh, man. Every time I hear his voice, I just think back to that.
Oh, what a mess.
No, I love Randy, and I love that he's still, giving Packer fans grief. I think it's awesome.
It absolutely is. I believe he just left. Didn't he just leave Fox for ESPN too?
Yeah, he's replacing another Vikings wide receiver, Chris Carter, at ESPN.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. So, CC will be gone, which is too bad, but I understand he's made some comments in the past that maybe were not ESPN appropriate, but it'll be interesting to see what they do with Moss. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And plus Fox already had a different Randy Moss, didn't they?
I think confusing. So. I think that was Fox, and I always got confused, and they don't look similar. So if you see them, You know who it is, but
Talking a little bit more about former Vikings, it was interesting to note that when everybody went down to try to pull Brett Favre out of retirement, Jared Allen was instead on the other side. He was trying to persuade Brett Favre to stay retired after the 2009 season, which to me, it's interesting because of the success that Favre had that year and the huge drop-off in production between that year and the next year, where Favre, let's be nice, struggled. Struggled, is that nice?
Yeah. Well, one thing, Jared Allen, we all saw his retirement video where, he rode off into the sunset,
Right.
And that's just Jared Allen. And the way that I took his words from that story was he went down there, saw this amazing house and this amazing farm and all this land in this beautiful area of the country. And, he could see that Favre was happy just waking up and, I don't know, feeding the chickens or whatever he did. And I think Jared Allen was one of the few players that could relate to that and say, you know what, this is what you're working for. You've already got it. Why come back? So yeah. I can see that point. But, man, I want to say that I'm glad that Favre came back, but I don't know. Are we? I think, man, that was tough to watch that last year.
It's always hard to see a player that you respect go through struggles like that, especially at the end of their career. It's like the whole "is it better to burn out than to fade away" thing.
Yep.
But either way, Favre's had enough moments that fans will remember the good times anyway. So.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, nobody's going to remember him, being knocked out of the game at TCF Field and getting against the Bears. And then, sitting the rest of the year. Nobody's going to remember that. They're going to remember all the good times with him. But, yeah, that was just tough to watch. That whole season, I mean, the roof caved in. He was, Sidney Rice got hurt. So then Favre didn't have his favorite target to throw to. And it was a bad year for Vikings fans. But
it was messy. Yeah. Definitely. Sports Illustrated released their 5-year dynasty team, and sorry about the noise out there. I got a truck coming into my apartment building delivering some furniture, so that's pretty cool.
Nice.
But Sports Illustrated named their 5-year dynasty team. Now, what they mean by that is a group of players who they feel will play at a high level for the next 5 years, and they group them together into a defensive squad. And on that team, only one Minnesota Viking made the roster, and it was linebacker Anthony Barr.
Yeah. So as far as Anthony Barr, I remember when he got drafted, I was like, who is this guy? I mean, that was just like, why did you not take Teddy Bridgewater right there? He was there. He was available, and you got this Anthony Barr guy. And, as crazy as it sounds, it turns out that Mike Zimmer knows a little bit more about football than I do. So, But yeah, I'm surprised, and I'm sure you're going to touch on this. There weren't more Vikings on there.
No, especially considering the young roster. I was kind of with you on the Barr pick. I had done my player analyses for everybody coming out in the draft that year, and with Anthony Barr, I saw this athletic freak in nature, but I couldn't figure out how he would fit in the current Vikings system. I just sat there and I kept looking at him like, what is he going to do? If they put him with his hand down, they're going to be wasting a lot of his athletic talent from the pass rush and a lot of his speed since he was a former running back and all that kind of stuff. And if they stand him up, they won't be able to rush him as much as they would anymore. And then the league kept moving towards the hybrid linebacker pass rush situation, the Von Miller type player. And that is essentially what Barr has become.
Definitely. And it's good to see. And, I agree with that. I agree with him being on that list. I think he definitely evolved. You look back, what was that, against Atlanta when he was chasing down the running back and just jogged up to him and, popped the ball out. I mean, or against Tampa Bay when it was overtime and he stripped the ball, picked it up, just the plays that he can make. You can tell that he's at another level than the average NFL player, and he's so young.
it's amazing to watch these guys develop, and it's going to be hard when it comes time to make a decision on a lot of these guys when they're looking for their contracts, because not all of them will be able to stay, but hopefully something will be able to work out. Fingers crossed.
Yep. But, hopefully by the time that they're up for a contract, Adrian's contract will be severely reduced. I hope. So then when it comes time to pay Teddy $20 million a year and Anthony Barr, Xavier Rhodes, Sharif Floyd, you can go on and on. So there's going to be a lot of players, like you said, that are going to be needing some contracts in the next couple of years. So that's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
And it won't be every year that Matt Khalil's playing on money like that 5th-year option.
Well, that's true. Yeah, he won't be getting $11 million next year, no matter where he's at.
Minnesota Vikings charity news, man. A lot of stuff going on. Chad Greenway had 2 big things happening with his golf tournament and the Celebrity Waiter event, both funding for the Lead the Way charity, which, as we all know, does great things for the community, hospital, children, all that kind of thing. Sean Hill paid for the entire youth football program in Parsons, Kansas. Sean Hill, of course, the backup quarterback to Teddy Bridgewater, that we hope we don't have to hear his name very much this season. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But it's always nice to hear these kind of charity things going on, and I never feel like they get enough attention in the media. It's such a negative media society that these good deeds get overlooked. So when things like this happen, shoot them over to us at Purple People Podcast. We'll definitely talk about them and give some respect, because these football players know what it's like. A lot of them know what it's like to struggle in communities growing up, not have stuff to eat. Like Anthony Barr, he had his struggling living with just a single mom, her trying to fight to go to school and all that kind of stuff, and him developing his charity for single mothers to go to college. A lot of these programs and fundraising charities have a lot to do with their own personal experience and mean a lot to them and their families. So it's really awesome.
It's great to see, and to your point about the media, it's not necessarily a negative media driven society. It's more that's just what sells. It's not, people click on the bad stories. Nobody clicks on the charity stories,
No.
And so you write about what's going to bring people in, and that's just on every level of media. And it's unfortunate, but that's the world that we're in. So like you said, if I hear anything, I'll definitely bring it up. Anybody else out there, bring that up to us, because we'd love to talk about that. And like you said, Anthony Barr, nobody talks about his charity, and me, I had a single mom, growing up. So that's, really resonates with somebody like me. And it's great to see the work that they do.
I love his charity because his mom runs his charity.
Yeah.
So I thought that was absolutely even more awesome. Again, sorry about the noise out there. Furniture movers.
Yeah.
We had some news about off-season workouts. Adrian Peterson, of course, he voiced his dislike, I'll say, for a lot of the OTAs and optional training camp stuff. But he does enjoy using a couple different sports to stay in shape and help him make his decisions. He's got boxing and MMA. A lot of athletes turning to MMA, but boxing is one you don't hear very often.
Yeah, and it's
running back.
Yeah. You don't. I mean, it doesn't seem like a good fit, right off the cuff. But when you delve deeper into it, there's a lot of good things with boxing. The balance, the endurance, the cardio, things like that'll should really help. But
we've already seen Peterson have that arm strength with the good, stiff arms. So we don't need a lot. We don't need much more proof on that.
Was it former Vikings running back Herschel Walker that became a boxer or an MMA fighter? Wouldn't that be crazy to see in 10 years? And Adrian Peterson enter the ring, and that would be fun to watch.
Ray Edwards, I believe, went into boxing as well.
Oh yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah, he kind of
a lot of transition to that sport from from MMA to boxing, or MMA or boxing from football. So there must be something going on there.
Yeah, I guess they just like getting hit. I think that's all it is.
Forbes announced that the Minnesota Vikings team value jumped by 36%. This shouldn't be a huge surprise because, of course, U.S. Bank Stadium, the Vikings transitioning from a less successful team to becoming a more successful team. More wins means more butts in seats, more merchandise sales, all that kind of stuff. So it's fantastic to see that not only are the team, the players, the fans getting invested in this, but the people with the actual money that do the investing and see the team values are realizing that, hey, this team, this franchise, this location, this area is on the rise.
It is very good to see. And that stadium, I hope people get out to it this weekend. I won't be in the city, so I won't be able to go see it. But, they got their open house thing going on. And that thing looks gorgeous from what I've seen.
Absolutely. And they just released a lot of that information about Vikings Voyage, the interactive kind of virtual reality experience where you can go catch balls and go through training camp and all that kind of stuff. It's really cool for fans that'll be there. It's free. You can do it while you're waiting. It's just in a section of the stadium all by itself, and you can go do whatever you like there. Fantastic thing. They also have released a photo of some of the prices in there. There have been a lot of people complaining about the prices that were on the board when they went on their tours, and relax, guys. Those were just placeholder prices. They weren't real prices. There are some prices that are posted up now on the Twitter account of I don't remember who it was now, but we'll share it up on the podcast page after this of some of the prices that are really going to be. And yeah, they're a little high because it's a football stadium. You're going to pay a premium price, but they aren't astronomical like they were expected to be. So you can still go and get your souvenir cup for $8-9. It's all right.
Where was it? Is it Atlanta? That's
Yes.
going to be doing like $2 sodas or something crazy like that, which is just going to make everybody else look like, like horrible.
Their concessions are so dirt cheap.
Which, I get it. Hot dog and a bun has got to cost them like 30 cents,
Right.
So, $9 later.
Oh, man. Yeah, I feel bad for the people cleaning up that place afterwards. There's going to be trash everywhere.
For sure.
Trey Waynes this offseason worked out with Chad Johnson. I don't know what to call him anymore. Did he legally change his name back?
I'm still going to call him Ocho Cinco. I think I'm always going to call him 85 Ocho Cinco. That's who he is,
Absolutely. But he was pushing Trey Waynes for a couple different things. He was giving him these challenges, like bumping him off the line and staying with him in bump and run coverage and backpedaling. And Trey Waynes is that competitive kind of guy. He will do what he can do. And Chad Johnson, a lot of people may give him a little bit of crap because of his attitude and stuff like that, but he is one talented guy, and he's got speed. He's got ability. He could be a guy that really helped out Trey Waynes.
Yeah. Well, you hear people talk still, he's got some of the quickest feet, some of the best route running.
Yep.
Like you said, people remember him trying to give $1 to the ref or, wearing the Hall of Fame jacket or, whatever. And that's part of what made him Ocho Cinco. But at the end of the day, he was a Pro Bowl wide receiver, because of, what he did on the field. So to see somebody, him take Trey Waynes and say, hey, let's go out there, let's battle, and then they probably went and played FIFA afterwards. I don't know if you follow him on Twitter, but, he's always challenging people to FIFA. And I think that's great, man. I'd love to see that.
A lot of people gave Trey Waynes a lot of crap at the beginning of the season because he was sitting out. He was playing special teams. He was only coming in on a handful of plays a game. And on the other hand, some of these other cornerbacks, which some people may have liked more, were having better seasons in other places. But as the seasons went on and Trey Waynes kept earning more playing time, I think he continued to prove that he is a guy that we can watch to develop and become a force the same way that Xavier Rhodes didn't come in and explode onto the scene the way he was. He was heavily criticized for using his hands, being too physical, and Trey Waynes is that similar kind of guy. And the nice thing about Trey Waynes is that they didn't have to throw him in the way they did for Xavier Rhodes. Waynes is able to sit down, realize when he can use his hands, when he can bump and run, when he can cheat a little bit. I feel bad for cornerbacks coming in from college football to the NFL because not only is it the level of competition that's changing for them, it's an entire set of rules in the passing game that they can't do things that made them successful in college. I don't even know how a lot of them transition and play in their first year. So major props to cornerbacks on that.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Cornerback has to be one of the most difficult spots to transition to. You all about wide receiver takes a couple years, quarterback obviously. Quarterback has got to be right underneath quarterback because as a wide receiver, you know what you're doing. You know you're going 2 yards, breaking out, whatever you're doing, a little slant, whatever. As a cornerback, not only do you need to have the technique, but you don't know what they're doing, so you need to have the reaction speed, and that takes a while to develop. Especially when you're going against from college level players to NFL level players. I mean, it takes a while. So I have no problem with Zimmer saying, "Hey, you're just going to sit this year. You're going to watch. You're going to learn. I'm going to teach you. We don't need you." And you focus on you, and then in a year or two when we need you, you're going to be ready to go. I have no problem.
No, Terrence Newman held down ship pretty well.
Oh yeah, he was fantastic last year.
The final not so quick hit here is that we have Antoine Winfield, former cornerback for the Minnesota Vikings. He retired and he's shifting his focus to poker. He's been playing for a couple years now. And he actually went and played in the World Series. I believe he got out on day one, but you got to start somewhere. And it's cool to see him getting involved in poker, and I wish him the best in it.
Yeah, it's great to see his name surface again. Hadn't heard anything about him in a while. I hate the way that his relationship ended with Minnesota. I loved Winfield. He was one of my favorite Vikings, and God, man, I wish we could have kept him. I know why we didn't, but I'm glad to see that he's doing well and having some fun out there.
For sure. Eric Spink in the chat here is curious to see how Heineke works in preseason. He was impressed with Dallas last preseason, and he met his family. Taylor Heineke, I'm a big fan of. Every year I say the Vikings are going to keep 2 quarterbacks on their roster. Every year they don't. They always go with 3. I do believe that the youth and potential of Heineke outweighs what we saw from Hill last year as well as his experience. And I know Bridgewater, some people believe he needs that mentor, that experience there to help him out. But I would have absolutely no problem with the Vikings rolling with Bridgewater and Heineke if they had to.
Yeah, and I've got complete trust in the coaching staff. So, if they're going through preseason here and they say, hey, Heineke and oh my God, why can't I think of our backup quarterback's name right now? Sean Hill.
Yeah.
If Sean Hill and Taylor Heineke are on the same page, yeah, let's go with Heineke. Let's cut Hill because he's making like $4 or $5 million this year.
Yeah.
Like you said, Teddy is such a cerebral quarterback. He doesn't need necessarily that mentorship. He's had it for a couple years, but he's got Norv Turner there with 30+ years of coaching experience. I would have no problem if they cut Hill and brought in Heineke, to be that second guy, and having only 2 quarterbacks, then you get another roster spot to go to offensive line maybe. And maybe that's the difference between keeping somebody like Phil Lodeholt or, Brandon Fusco or cutting them. So it'll be really nice to see if they do go with 2, who that extra roster spot would go to. Maybe Moritz Boringer, if they don't think they can get him onto the practice squad. Hey, maybe they roll with him on the active squad so they don't lose him.
Yeah, you made a good point about trusting the coaching staff. A lot of us, we watch the games, we see these guys, they're doing their things, and we get impressed. They have a big game, and we absolutely just fall in love. We had the same situation with McLeod Bethel Thompson. Just a big cannon on the kid, made some cool plays, had some solid preseasons, ended up losing him. He went to San Francisco, but overall, the coaching staff just didn't feel he was ready. And although as fans, we tend to fall in love with the players we love, we can't over-dramatize a lot of the things. Like, we had a same situation, too, with linebacker Gerald Hodges. Now, don't get me wrong. Hodges, solid linebacker. I wouldn't mind having him in a rotation. But a lot of people were talking about him like he was, the next DJ Henderson or something like that. And I'm not sure that was the case. We tend to over-dramatize the players we like.
Yep.
And as much as I like Heineke, I don't want to get caught up in that.
No, I'm the same way. I'd love to see him, produce well, but like you said, I mean, sometimes when we have that favorite player, we might think that they're better than they actually are. And trust the coaching staff. If they keep them, they keep them for a reason. If they cut them, they cut them for a reason. And we don't see what happens every day in the practice field or in the meeting rooms or in the locker room. I mean, we see them for 3 hours, out of the week, whereas the coaches are around them 24/7 basically. So they've got a little bit more knowledge on these players than we do. So
for the main topic this week, we were going to stretch out a little bit about Adrian Peterson saying that he sees greatness in Teddy Bridgewater, but we're already running about a 40-minute show here, and that's a lot longer than I think we were planning on heading. So I guess we can just kind of summarize how we feel about the situation. A lot of this is probably player talk. We heard similar things like when Greg Jennings would say that Christian Ponder had what it took, just needed to let it loose and needed a couple things to click. I'm that guy where I got so sick of every episode of the Purple People podcast saying this performance from Christian Ponder. Hopefully we won't see this for much longer. He just needs a couple things to click and he's got it. I don't know how many times I said that. And honestly, the things that I was hoping for to click for Christian Ponder are the things that Teddy Bridgewater already has. The patience, some of the elusiveness in the pocket, the accuracy, all those kind of things that he brings to the table were the things that Christian Ponder kind of lacked. And now fans want that quarterback that's willing to take a couple more chances like Christian Ponder used to. So it's weird to see, okay, we're over here, now we want a little bit over here, and now we're over here and we want a little bit over here.
Yeah. No, I was definitely one of those back in the day that would say, Christian Ponder, man, he's this close, like you said, just a little bit more and he'll be just fine. I always thought that he'd be, our own version of Tony Romo. That was who I always likened Christian Ponder to. But man, there's no comparison between Christian Ponder and Teddy Bridgewater, where they are right now, where they're going to be at the end of their careers. There's no comparison.
And let's be honest here. Adrian Peterson isn't exactly known for sugarcoating things.
No.
If he didn't like the situation that was going on with Teddy Bridgewater, we'd have like we had when Bridgewater was taking snaps out of the shotgun. We'd have Adrian Peterson saying, the way the game is going, it's not playing to my strengths. He's never been afraid to voice what's going on around him, how he feels he can do better. Even if it means throwing himself, his coaches, his teams, whoever, under the bus a little bit, he is vocal. And I do believe that he does see the Vikings' future in Teddy Bridgewater. I see it too. A lot of people don't. A lot of people are very critical of him about taking deep shots and taking too many sacks, holding on to the ball too long, all these other sort of things. But you got to remember, too, last year was his first full season as a starter. So
well, yeah, and I mean, he was pressured on a higher percentage of dropbacks than any other quarterback in the league, I believe. So when you're running for your life on, 1 out of every 2 plays, it's, you're not going to have the best season. But, to Peterson, back to that whole point, there are so many times over the past few years where I'm just like, Adrian, just shut up. Just stop talking. You're making it worse, whatever the case is. And even if they talked to him and said, hey, Adrian, you need to, be more PC friendly. We're going to tell you what to say so that, you boost the brand and boost the image. You could tell if Peterson was lying. You could tell if he was just blowing smoke up people, just because that's what he was supposed to do. You can tell that his comments that he made, the way that he said them, he believes it. I mean, he's 100% behind it. This isn't just blowing smoke.
No. Okay, so for social media, we have been slacking on that. We did not ask a question last week. For next week, I want to know who is the underdog on the roster that you're hoping will steal a starting gig this year. There's going to be quite a few guys fighting for some spots that are still up for grabs. Personally, I still feel like right guard, center are both kind of positions that are up in the air. We've got you could argue that both wide receiver jobs are up in the air. You've got a linebacker job that you got Greenway kind of penciled in, but again, could be up for grabs. You got a starting safety job, and you've got youth versus experience at cornerback. Lots of positions where there could be guys that come out and just unexpectedly snag a job. Who's the guy that you want to take one of those spots? Let us know.
Yeah, and you want me to answer this right now?
Have at it.
All right, man. You touched on it. Safety across from Harrison, man. I'd love to see somebody like, Anthony Harris, take the job. Left defensive end, I'd love for Daniil Hunter to, eat into even more of the snaps there, maybe take over the starting job. But I'll tell you one that maybe not many people are going to talk about, but TJ Clemmings at left tackle. Crazy as that sounds. We've got 2 right tackles right now. Plan is to move TJ Clemmings to left tackle, let him be the backup behind Khalil, on Smith, and Phil Lodeholt battle it out at right tackle. So, if Khalil doesn't show improvement, and if he's still the turnstile that he has been for the last few years, is there a point during the season where you say, hey, he's gone after this year, he's not showing any improvement, he's a liability out there, let's see what this guy can do. Hey, I'm just saying.
It's a tough call to make.
Hot take season.
I mean, that's $11 million sitting on your bench.
Yeah, but, if he's not the guy, are you going to keep playing him even though, there's no point to it?
It's a tough situation, man, but that's a good conversation maker, that's for sure.
That's what I'm going for. Get people talking, hey, who knows? If it happens, I'm going to look like a genius. If it doesn't, nobody will remember. So
Christian Ponder getting some love in the chat here live. I love that. Always good to see.
The greatest in Vikings history right there. Well, the greatest.
That's all I have for this week. Do you have anything else you want to close up with?
No, man. I have nothing. This was fun. This was a blast. Love to do it again. Had a lot of fun today.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, if you want to see more from Purple People Podcast, you can check us out, YouTube, Stitcher, iTunes. If you don't like seeing this, iTunes and Podomatic, Google Podcasts, no video for it. You don't have to watch me. And I personally, I probably would prefer going that way too if I were you. So you can read my work as well as Jordan's over on the Viking Age. Highly recommend. The Facebook page is growing by leaps and bounds. We'd love to have you come on over to the Viking Age on Facebook, as well as Twitter. Interact with us. Have a good time. Click on some articles. Leave some comments. We got some writers leaving some pretty hot takes these days, so definitely worth checking out. There was just an article released today with some expectations and predictions for the 2016 season, and oh, wow, some bold ones in there.
Comments are going to be fun to read on that one, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Our live chat doesn't want us to leave, but it's that time. Sorry, guys. We should be back next week. It should be me at least, and I don't know, maybe some Kyles. Maybe we'll have a Tommy Gunn, maybe a Jordan. I don't know. We'll see who we've got. And in the meantime, stay classy, Minnesota.